Welcome to this Times Techies webinar. I'm Shilpa Fadnis and I have with me my colleague Akhil George. The two of us will moderate today's discussion. It's truly a special occasion as Times Techies celebrates its 100th webinar, and we thank our partner companies, our readers and viewers for making this a success. We're having this discussion on why diversity and inclusion is a business imperative in association with leading IT services firm Cognizant. The Indian IT sector has added 4.5 lakh freshers in the current financial year. Of this, 2 lakh employees were women. The sector today has 5 million employees, of which women constitute 1.8 million, which IT is the largest organized private sector employer of women. Despite the progress, the number of women in mid to senior level positions is low. Women drop off mid-career for a variety of reasons. Among business in general, India holds the third lowest spot in the Asia-Pacific region in terms of female representation at the senior management level, slightly ahead of South Korea at 8% and Japan at 7%. Female representation in CEOs is just 5% and in CFOs is 4%. The technology sector today has been focusing on diversity and inclusion in a big way. Companies are taking a variety of initiatives to add more women to the workforce, retain them, and bring them back when they have left the workforce. They're taking several measures to ensure a healthy environment for the LGBTQ community. Several studies have shown that diversity improves business performance. To discuss this, we have three seasoned professionals.
Rajesh Nambiar is President of Digital Business and Technology and Chairman of Cognizant India. As President of Digital Business and Technology, he brings together the industry's compelling technology vision, strategy, roadmap, capabilities, solutions, partnerships, and subject matter expertise into a single integrated powerhouse that runs all the IT services for Cognizant. As Chairman of Cognizant India, Rajesh leads our India associates and enhances relationships with the government and key policy-making bodies. Welcome, Rajesh.
Thank you.
Sangeeta Gupta has been the Senior Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer of the National Association of Software and Services Companies, commonly known as NASSCOM, for the past 3 decades. She is a technology industry veteran who manages numerous major programs in NASSCOM that focus on industry research, outreach, events, communications, and NASSCOM strategic goals. She has watched the evolution of the IT industry and has advocated for its expansion. She is a strong supporter of new technologies, innovation, and skill development in order to boost the country's digital future. Welcome, Sangeeta.
And we have with us Sailaja Josyula. She has 25 years of experience with close to 2 decades in banking and financial services. She currently heads the banking and financial services and insurance operations for digital business operations at Cognizant. She has done a tremendous job of strengthening operations and also contributing to expansion of the retail banking business. She also took over as Hyderabad Center Head responsibilities for Cognizant last year. Sailaja is an avid diversity and inclusion advocate, a fellow at the International Women's Leadership Program, and has undertaken executive management courses at Harvard and INSEAD. Welcome, Sailaja. Those of you who are viewing this can send in questions to the Facebook comment box. Akhil and I will put them to Rajesh, Sangeeta, and Sailaja. Coming to you first, Rajesh, there have been several conversations around how it's time to reimagine the workplace in a post-pandemic world. From a business perspective, how important is it to foster a diverse and inclusive culture for innovation and business growth?
So thank you, Shilpa, and I also want to thank the Times Techies for having us all today. I think it's a very pivotal moment, as we all know. We've been talking about how the pandemic has been an inflection point, right? And all of us have been experiencing that firsthand in many ways. But if you look at everything which is going on in the companies, the pandemic has actually accelerated, made several things in organizations. I mean, least of all is the whole digital transformation. Companies are getting more digital than ever before, much sooner, much more deeper into the digital phase. And of course, that is true also for all the innovation, which is the companies are trying to do, right? I mean, across the board, there's more innovation today in the companies than probably in the pre-pandemic era. But innovations cannot be restricted to just technology, right? I believe that it's a lot more about putting people at the heart of change, ensuring that you have the right set of talent which will actually take on the what is required in the future for all of the organizations. So from a business standpoint, your question was around how does this why is this important? I think the case for diversity in the workplace is overwhelming, given its ability to foster innovation, creativity, and empathy in ways that a typical homogeneous environments can never ever do. So I believe diversity is not just about the numbers or what we measure, etc. Of course, you need to measure, but it is making the organizations truly inclusive. It requires a lot of intentional effort from the organizations, right? So interventions and a mindset change to create a truly inclusive workplace that breaks the what we call this unconscious bias, which which is a big hurdle for us, all of us, to cross. And that's exactly what we are focused on. So if we look at innovation, there are plethora of studies, and I won't bore you with all the details around why these studies show that diversity is a key driver. There is very empirical and strong data to prove that financial performance of companies that have higher gender diversity amongst their executives is significantly higher than those which don't. So, and there is much higher performance in companies that have higher ethnic diversity as well. So the diversity is not just about gender. And we also saw, we all agree that for an organization to be successfully innovate, it requires a diverse workforce, which can and bring to the table a diverse set of ideas, diverse set of capabilities, experience, and perspective. Again, as I said, diversity is not just limited to gender. It's also about diversity of ideas, experience, skills, culture. You talked about ethnicity, LGBTQ. You mentioned that as well. So let me stop there. But I think there's very, very strong reason why this is a business paradigm, business imperative, as opposed to just being nice.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you for setting the context. Sangeeta, coming to you, NASSCOM has been a big proponent as an IT industry body in accelerating the diversity agenda. Do you want to take us through your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Shilpa, and congratulations to you and Akhil on the 100th webinar. I think we've been a part of this journey with you, so it's really great to see where you've really come forward. I think Rajesh covered the fact that the last 2 years have been very defining for this industry from the perspective of how we've been able to accelerate businesses across all segments. At the same time, I think it's very recognizable, and it's a quote I recently heard, that the new normal is no normal, right? So we really don't know what lies ahead. And in an environment where there is a lot of opportunity that's out there, yet there is constant change, you need the emphasis on diversity more than ever, right? So because you need to build out new things, you need to change very fast, you need to evolve as you go along, yet plan for something that is unprecedented and you don't know what it is. So as we look ahead, I mean, obviously the last 2 years we've seen a lot of growth, but from a NASSCOM perspective, as we are looking ahead at the next 3, 4, 5 years, we are really recognizing that in this environment of constant change, yet huge opportunities, diversity has to be at the center of everything that we do. And diversity, like Rajesh said, is not just about gender. Gender is a very significant part of that focus, but it is about diversity of selling to a new set of customers that we've never sold. Diversity for building for, say, Bharat, as a lot of it is being talked about. Diversity of selling to the large percentage of women who are now decision makers. So it's only when you bring in a diverse set of group of people that you will be able to build out the solutions that really go and match this diverse needs that lie out there. So I would really say it's now getting firmly embedded into business priorities. And at least as someone who's seen the tech industry, I've never seen diversity so much on top of the CEO agenda. So we really see now every leader increasingly talking about how do I build more and more diversity in my organization.
Okay, the next question, it's either Rajesh or Sangeeta can take it, but Sailaja, please chip in if you have any thoughts. Now, there have been plenty of times where it's been highlighted again and again that gender equality is still a distant goal. What are your comments on this, and what is it that companies can do to change the scenario?
So I'll take a cut at it, and then of course, Sangeeta and Shailaja, please do chime in as well. I believe that, look, companies need to act with intentionality across the employee life cycle, from all the way from the recruiting stage and beyond to enhance the equitable opportunities for women. So developing women for a meaningful career is not just a one-step process, but a very systematic approach. You build it over a period of time, right? And one needs to begin with the start of their career while introducing meaningful interventions along the way, right? I mean, it's not a one-time exercise, right? So, but I must say that I'm so pleased that many organizations are already jumping onto the bandwagon, not just in the IT sector probably had a little bit of an advantage. I think they're a little bit ahead of maybe many of the other traditional sectors, if you may. But I think everybody is sort of coming into the bandwagon, so that's making a difference. And these programs need to help women progress in their careers every step of the way, as I mentioned, right? So whether it is, for example, facilitating a return to work after a career break, which is a big deal, and I can talk about a little bit what we do as a company, but I just want us to talk about the industry as a whole, the society as a whole. Skilling for new campus hires. How do you make sure that people, when they even join from the campuses, really have the capability and the and the wherewithal to sort of climb up the leadership ladder, from a diversity point of view. Leadership development, maternity leave and support, and encouraging male allyship. I think it's a huge thing. We'll talk about it later. Or creating a culture of what we call psychological safety, because how do you make sure that you're able to create an environment as leaders? We do owe that to our people. How do you create that so that people feel very empowered to contribute and then grow within that setup, etc. Right? So we need to find opportunity to listen and adopt and truly leverage the affinity groups, right? Because if you don't listen to the people, you don't know what they really want. Because oftentimes we find that there are people are making decisions in silos or in vacuum, but it's important for us to listen to them. I can give you many examples, right? So I won't go there right now, but let me see if Sangeeta or Sailaja wants to add anything to that.
I think Rajesh has covered a lot of points, but I think one example that stood for me, Akhil, when this whole question on gender equality was raised in a company seminar we were doing, was really about equal pay parity. I think there is still a distinguishing factor between pay parity between two genders. So how do we as organizations, apart from building the policies, providing the frameworks, making sure that there is, like Rajesh said, intentionality of making it right? But also look at stuff like pay parity, right? Because normally HR will always ask you when you're recruiting what you got last, and just because somebody was in a different environment, they are ranked lower, and there is not enough. And some companies are doing very well on that. So I think one is pay parity. I think second is what you're seeing some of the new age companies now announce, right? That maternity leave is not just for women, it's equally applicable for the fathers, right? So stop doing everything to make it sound this maternity is only a woman's role. Maternity is an equal role that both parents should play a role in. And the more we can enable policies that would support both parents to bring up the children, will give an equal opportunity for both parents to rise up in their careers. So I would say one is obviously make sure that women get all the right support, but also make your policies more gender neutral, right? So drive that engagement so that you don't have this, I need to help that lady, right? So it should not be about that. She deserves it, right? And she's doing very well. So how do you make that happen? Sailaja, I don't know if you want to add to that.
No, absolutely, Sangeeta. And in fact, as we celebrated International Women's Day and Women's History Month, I think, we came across so many inspiring stories. For example, we have one of our associates, before she joined Cognizant, she was actually on a break, which was at the peak of her career, to obviously fulfill her responsibilities as a new mother and other family priorities. And after several years at home, she found it truly challenging to get back to work, right? The usual questions and doubts on capability. Would I fit in? Am I still relevant in the new market reality? Now, she was introduced by a friend to Cognizant's returnship program. This is a 12-week structured program, which actually helps acclimatize professionals to restart their careers after a break. Now, 95% of our, graduates from this program are women, and she was one of them. And today she's successfully managing projects, right? This is like an important intervention that we did for somebody who was looking to come back into the corporate world. Similarly, we have another woman who shared her story. She joined Cognizant as a senior manager. She obviously was aspiring for leadership development. So 3 years into joining Cognizant, she was recommended for a flagship program called Propel, which is our signature women's global leadership program. And today she's a director leading a team of more than 100. And of course, she's a role model and she pays it forward. So I think these are some of the real examples. And in the process, we are able to create a very respectful culture, role models, and applying the D&I strategy to also achieve our client-centric goals. So focus for us should be to enable and support the business leaders as well to integrate diversity and inclusion agenda into everyday operations, right from recruiting all the way through to talent development and engagement. I think that is key for us to start increasing our diversity numbers.
That's an interesting point, Sailaja. Actually, Sangeeta, what you were saying before about pay parity, I think that's worth looking into a little bit more. I think I might be wrong about this, but I think it was the BBC, I think last year or maybe 2 years back, that quite radically opened up their salary statements of everyone. So that that radical transparency really pushed the conversation forward. Do you think that kind of a radical step is
that may be too radical? Yeah, that may be too radical. Okay. But I think I think recognizing that this is a point that needs to be looked at it, and it's going to be a journey. So BBC must have been through the journey before they took that radical step, right? It's a journey that companies have to work on, and through that process even discover if there are gaps. Maybe in companies like Cognizant there are no gaps, right? You are assessed on the skills that you bring to the table, but if there are gaps, I think those are the companies that will need to go out and fix them. So I wouldn't say everybody has a gap. There would be gaps, and not only in the tech industry, in many other industries in India.
Of course, I would assume all the industries have this issue. Yeah, please, Shilpa.
Yeah, Sailaja, you touched upon, returnship program. I just wanted to understand from you, there are increasing demand from women who are trying to move up the career ladder for sponsorship and mentoring. Can you help us understand some of the initiatives companies should be undertaking to have a stronger push towards these, so that you'll have more and more diverse teams, and also you help get more visible examples of women into the workforce across the different levels of the organization?
No, absolutely. I think as Rajesh was also alluding, right, to me, it is step-by-step intervention right from talent requisition, which is skilling of women when they come into the organization, through to leadership development as they progress through the career. Also have a very dedicated program for returnship, provide flexibility, especially when women hit those key milestones. And internally, I think we all know in the corporate world, we need mentorship and sponsorship. So all these programs have an inbuilt mentorship and sponsorship, which actually helps them interact with our key leaders in the business, thereby understanding the macro dynamics of a business, and also overcoming some of the inherent, probably, I would say, confidence issues that some of the women have, which is very typical, right? So for us, I think to be successful as an industry, this mentorship is very important. And it's also important that we have strong stakeholders who start to advocate for women. And this is where allyship, that in fact, Rajesh was alluding to, is very, very important, because these are leaders who walk the talk. That D&I is very important. They openly support women as sponsors, as advocates, as key leaders who kind of talk about their capabilities and push their names for important assignments. At the end of the day, we are looking for equal opportunities. And then they also start to kind of look at hiring in such a way that for the right job, the right person is hired, irrespective of one's gender. So these actions are very important. In fact, since 2018, as part of this leadership program that we have been running at Cognizant, we have put more than 1,000 women through leadership development program. And some of the modules we have done there are actually around, non-finance for tech managers, right? Because we all know that women need help with how to manage finance. Similarly, leadership development. Then similarly, how to kind of have a brand ambassadors of you. right? Who can actually start talking about you, how to kind of overcome your own, self-confidence issues. So these have been dedicated programs that we run as part of this Propel Leadership Program, which has really helped women overcome their own biases, for want of a better word, and gain the confidence to grow. And we've also seen an amazing success rate that the women who go through this program come back energized, charged, and they also interface not only with the business leaders, but also with external speakers who kind of help address some of the taboos and, self-doubt. So that's been very important. But given that women are still a minority, for me, male allyship is very important, right? With leaders like Rajesh, who actually are huge advocates of DNI. And that's been probably in the DNA of Cognizant, that we have the tone set at the top, that this is a very important agenda. And it's not just lip service, but we have all these activities that we are doing during the different periods of women's career, these interventions which are targeted at actually creating a much more robust pipeline for women. So that's probably what I would say, Shilpa.
Thanks, Sailaja. Rajesh, coming to you, in a post-pandemic world, if you look at the SEC disclosures, they're very nuanced, and especially last 2 years, it's changed significantly. It's just not about pay parity, but some of the organizations even talk about opportunity parity. I just wanted to hear your thoughts, Shelby, in terms of calling out the opportunities, removing bias even from the job description to upskilling. If you can share your thoughts on how Cognizant has made some progress there.
Absolutely. Look, Shilpa, I think Sailaja spoke about a couple of programs that we already do. One was around this whole returnship, and the other one was around the Propel, etc. But fundamentally, as an organization, we are very, very committed right from the top. And as I mentioned, as an organization, there is a significant commitment to ensure that we build a diverse workforce across the board, and we do run an organization which is truly diverse in many ways, not just from a gender point of view, but in all the other ways as well. We start from the top, as I said. We have 4 women on the board in our Cognizant global board today who are women, which I believe it's a good representation of diversity there. 40% of hires that we have done in the last 2 years were all women. Right? So 40% is a good number. We believe that it could even be higher, but we will continue to work on that. Number one, and then we also do this what is called this Makers Promise. I don't know that you've heard of that organization called Makers. So 2019, I'm looking at some of the statistics here. We pledged 100,000 women we would hire by 2020. In 2019, we went and made that pledge. And we were able to do this 100,000 women hires across the world, of course, and majority of them in India, much before that the deadline that we had of 2020. So that's number one. Then in 2020, we went and pledged again to Makers, saying that we would do the program which Sailaja was talking about. 1,000 people, we will put them through the leadership pipeline, because I believe that we do a decent level of diversity in the lower end of the pyramid. As it goes up, as you all know, there's a huge, and we call it leaky, pipeline, etc. So I think our challenge would be as it goes higher, and how do you make sure that we are able to do this in a very systematic way in many ways, right? So I always believe that, as Sailaja was also saying, this is not about having reservation, etc. It's about also making sure that how do you make sure that the pipeline, the slate has the right level of diversity representation, and after that it is best person for the job. So no, I don't think any man or a woman want to get the job because they were from X diverse population or whatever. But it is about ensuring that when I look at diversity, I look at D, E, and I, which is one is the diversity. The other one is, of course, the equity. How do you make sure that you're able to provide that platform? And then finally, the inclusion in terms of how do you make sure that they're able to do that. So, to long story short, it's in 2020 we said we will do this 1,000 people through this Propel program and ensure that they're ready for senior management roles. And I think I'm glad to say that more than 1,000 have gone through this program already. So that's a good way of doing it. And then if you I can go through all the different aspects of what we do. Pay parity is absolutely one of them. In India, especially, since you are also interested in what we do in India, we've just begun a program called Shakti. What we've been able to do is that sort of bring in all of the different elements of what we do for women across the life cycle of, and again I talked about how do you make sure that we are doing the recruitment in process. I'm just looking for the specific words that we were using in the Shakti program. I think it was fabulous as to how we were able to do that across these life cycles. How do you nurture the program, not nurture the candidates during a certain phase, make sure that they're able to get to the leadership level. So that is the systematic way of doing this program across the life cycle is probably what is going to make a difference. So it's also sort of gives us a bit of a focus on having the right set of measurements, because if you don't measure something, you never get it done. So all of this is what I think we are doing from a broader organization point of view to sustain this over a period of time.
Akhil?
Okay, excellent. We've touched upon male allyship. A few of you have mentioned it, so maybe we can go a little bit deeper into that. Rajesh, maybe you can tell us, how can men really help with this movement to empower women?
Look, Akhil, I think men have an opportunity and a responsibility, more than an opportunity, to serve as a strong ally and create what we talked about, this whole psychological safety in order to enable women's inclusion and belonging. Not just the men, but everybody should do this, but also women. Because oftentimes we look at diversity, especially the gender diversity, as a women's problem, or women should talk about it. And most panels you won't even include me, for the matter. You'll probably have only women. It is about women, but it need not be by women all the time. I think you need to enroll the men who will have to be advocates for it, because the problem is in the other side most of the time. Not always. It is. I always find this is a women versus society type of an issue, as opposed to women versus men. So it is important for us to make sure that you're getting enough allies, male allies as well, in addition to women allies, of course. There's no question on that. And I believe, first of all, you need to believe in it. This is not about being nice guy or all of that. It is about truly believing. It is a business paradigm. It is the thing that you need to do even for an organization to succeed in at the end of the day, right? So that's number one. You got to be authentic. You got to be genuine. This is not a lip service that you could do and get away with it, right? So it's important for us to do. Men need to understand the challenges that women face so that they can help address those biases women face at workplace. Because if you don't understand it, there is no way you're going to fix it, right? So it is important for men to understand what are the real issues that they are facing. So I believe allyship, especially the male allyship, is important for making sure that not only everyone is invited to the table, but most importantly heard, acknowledged, and recognized for all their contributions. So being a male ally means a lot to me personally. It means that I'm invested in advancing women in the workplace. It means that I believe in opening doors to every opportunity. It means that being a better listener, if you may, right, and understanding what they are really going through, and helping to create pathways. And Sailaja talked about mentorship and all of that. Ensure that you're able to get more access, exposure, which really empowers people at the end of the day. And so I strongly believe that being authentic is a very credible aspect of male allyship.
Maybe,
so just
yeah,
add
please.
to that, Rajesh. Sorry, Akhil. I think the point Rajesh mentioned when NASSCOM started its diversity summits, the room would be just full of women and women, right? And we would say we are talking to the converted, right? We are all talking the same things and talking to each other, but most of us may not be able to make that difference. So then we made that conscious effort to say, how will we get more men to participate? And the men were very willing to participate, but everybody felt this is a women event, right? So I think shifting the focus from diversity to be a women thing to being a business priority. And we did that very consciously. Our numbers may not still be where we want it to be, but I think we want the people who will be the decision makers to be at such programs, not just women who are nominated to participate because it's called a diversity event. So to me, I think that's a huge shift we've attempted to make, but there's so much more that needs to be done there.
Right. Not only that, I think in all companies, for employees to grow, they need mentorship, right?
Exactly.
That's how people grow. And if most of the employees are men, then it just makes logical sense that they have to take an interest in helping out the younger female employees, especially fresh graduates. I think
at all levels, Akhil. It's not just fresh graduates, right? I mean, I think especially for our industry, I think the middle is where you need the most support, right? And having mentors will make all the difference. And mentors, irrespective of gender, frankly, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now the next question, any of you can take this. The pandemic has become a big hurdle for women to progress in this industry, where there have been situations like, they have had to quit their jobs, focus on daily chores, lack of support to help them rejoin the workforce. So do intervention programs encourage women to step up again in their career after a short break? And from your experience, from all of your experience, how fruitful have they been?
I think for Cognizant, right, it has been extraordinarily fruitful. We have a 12-week paid opportunity for experienced tech professionals who have taken a career break, right? And these women have left the career at the peak of their careers, right? Because there were other priorities that required their attention. And they're very eager to restart. I think what we found when we were dealing with these cohorts was how ambitious they were, and most importantly, the work ethics that they came with, right? There was excellent work ethics. They want to make a difference. They want to kind of, be recognized for who they are. So all those good things were there, which is great, right? From a work perspective, we were attracting the right kind of talent who would make a positive contribution. But also, these women have lost touch, if for want of a better word, with how to manage the work, how to balance home. Am I relevant? Hey, when I was in the tech industry, different things were a priority. Today, it's data, it is IoT, connected world. We are talking of 5G application, cloud. Am I still relevant? Are my skills still relevant? So it's a little bit of that where we actually have put this 12-week program with interventions from business leaders, a bit of shadowing, giving them a bit of digital upskilling. So that is on the tech side. Then we also have sessions on the softer elements of it. Work-life balance, right? Getting used to a corporate world, how to kind of be a little bit more organized so that we don't feel very overwhelmed. Because one thing which, at least personally for me in the pandemic, the home has gotten used to the women back at home, right? And so everybody wants to check in with you, whether it is inventory management, kitchen management, studies and projects, right? Elder care. It kind of starts to rotate around a woman. I almost feel like the sun in the solar system, right? Because everybody is kind of on their own, orbit, but then they keep constantly checking on the women. So it's so much more for a woman who is coming back from a career break. So it's how to kind of separate those elements without necessarily feeling guilty or feeling almost overwhelmed. At times you would tend to feel very overwhelmed, right? I think that is a bit of conversation that we have also included into this. And most of us leaders also kind of go and participate saying, hey, it's not just you, we go through this every day, right? And these are some of the tips that worked for me. So maybe some tips worked for me, some would have worked for Shilpa, some would have worked for Sangeeta. But when women listen to this, they say, oh, okay, I'm not in this alone, right? It helps them overcome that self-doubt and, propel forward with, confidence. So this 12-week intervention program specifically on returnship for those who have had their careers disrupted has been hugely successful. But one thing we realize is we just can't bring them through the door and say, oh, yeah, we are hiring returners. Come, okay, let's get you back to the job from day one. That is not going to fly. It has to be thought through. It has to be measured. And it has to kind of almost take off, right? It's like we are providing a ramp. And as the ramp, comes to a conclusion at the end of 12-week period, women have taken off, and we've had excellent feedback from wherever they've gone because they bring this work ethics, eagerness to kind of prove themselves. And of course, they are very good learners. So we found that very, very useful. So I think that is something very deliberate, and we are very proud of this, and we are kind of, very happy to kind of continue to do this and attract women talent. This also helps our general talent search, right? Which the industry is facing. So there are all these women who are great talent who want to come back and work, right? It's just about providing that slight opportunity so that they can come back into the workforce and start to contribute to the corporate world.
Right. Sangeeta, to bring you in here, according to one report, only 24% of women and ethnic minorities in tech roles feel like they have a sense of belonging in the organization, despite 75% of the leadership executives believing in the opposite. So where do you think is the missing loop?
After years, Shilpa, have been very different from what we've been used to in the past, right? So, and I think this is irrespective of gender or ethnic minorities. People have maybe got better connected with their teams, but have got more disconnected with the rest of the organization, because you tend to get better, you're doing a lot more interactions with your immediate team, but you're not spending enough time at, when you were at the workplace, the town halls, the interactions, etc. So I think that's one overall issue, which is irrespective of gender, that it has led to a little more disconnects, and companies are making tremendous efforts to saying, how do we break that, right? From getting people back to the workplace, not all the time, but providing that flexibility, from holding more collaboration sessions, from making the workplace a place where you come to collaborate, think, move across teams. So there's a lot of focus, leaders personally spending time with teams to just share perspectives, right? Not just a one-on-one kind of sessions only. So I think that's one kind of thing we need to focus on and do this. And I think within that, focusing more on women and ethnic minorities is equally more important, because like the last question Sailaja talked about, right? Women are juggling a lot of different things. And in that perspective, if they have to manage 100 different things and yet, focus on many other different programs that we can create to drive engagement, it's very easy to get disconnected, right? So I would say we need to be more focused on saying, how do we make sure they are not disconnected as organizations? And I think communication is very, very central to this whole aspiration and vision of making sure they are connected and feel part of the organization, and not something distinct being left out, right?
Okay, excellent. So we have quite a few questions from our audience. I think we should ask a few of them.
Yeah, Akhil, go ahead, Akhil.
Yeah. So Jashan Shah is curious to know, how does diversity and inclusion programs in large organizations, do these programs have an impact on performance?
I'm not sure I quite understand what the question is. In performance of whom?
I think he wants to know that do these inclusion programs, do they help boost the performance of individuals? I suppose that's what he means by that question.
Oh, I'm not sure about again which individuals, etc. as a question, but I think as a diversity as a program has got a significant amount of impact on the organizational results. And I talked about a couple of examples earlier where BCG had done a study which proved that organizations with the more diverse leadership, more diverse population have better financial results than organizations which don't. And I mentioned this again in the first time I was speaking about why this is a business imperative. So yes, there is a significant impact on the performance. Now, you also make sure that we have measurements across the organizations to ensure that this happens as a system, not just as a one-off thing, right? And we talked about what gets measured gets done. So there's a bit of a measurements around some of those, the individual performance, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure as to what that question would relate to from an individual performance.
Right. Whether it's Rajesh, if you had a mentor, you had all these professional learning programs that Sailaja spoke about, it would provide a tremendous boost to any individual in any one of us, right? If getting all that very organized way of boosting our careers, it's a phenomenon. It will impact my performance very positively, right?
Okay, that's probably what he meant.
We have this question from Arun Karthik. Why does it seem that diversity and inclusion efforts are focused solely on women? So who wants to
I can say, and then I would love to Sangeeta and Sailaja to chime in as well. Listen, first of all, diversity for us does not mean gender diversity alone. And we talked about all of the other set of diversity that we focus on as a company, as an industry, whether it is LGBTQ, people with disability, diversity of thoughts, minority, ethnic minority. We talked about there are a plethora of diverse things. So when we talk about diversity, it is much, much more than gender. But let's not forget, gender is a huge part of it. 50% of our society, the world is women. So if you don't have that covered, then forget about the rest of it. I can see there's a lot more to be done across the board. So that is number one. So we do definitely focus on diversity at a broader meaning of the word. And there are programs, I can tell you, we have a very, very successful program called Embrace, which focuses purely on LGBTQ, and it's a successful program. I think across Cognizant we run that. There are many other progressive organizations I am aware of. Many of the multinationals have caught up on it. The India-based organizations are slightly behind in terms of the whole LGBTQ agenda, but I think I'm seeing more and more coming up every day. So I think we're all getting there in terms of as an industry. We have a program called Unite, which purely focus on people with diversity, people with disability, whether it is preventable blindness or blindness in general, or any other disability, learning disability included. Lots of programs around it. Even if you go one step further around our foundations, we do a lot of work around ensuring that, of course, for women, child, as well as people with disabilities. So I can go on and on in terms of the stuff that we do, not just from a gender diversity, but all of the other stuff as well.
To be fair to the person who asked the question, I think because of Women's Day just finished and all the coverage, maybe it seems like we only talk about women. Thank you for the question, Arun Karthik.
Akhil, go ahead with the next one.
Yeah, so we have another question from Sangeeta Sen. She's asking, how, for a B2C organization, the business imperative of D&I is pretty understandable. Wanted to understand from senior leaders at Cognizant on how D&I helps in a B2B organization like this.
So, as I said, actually, this is probably the third time I'm saying, right? In terms of the business impact of this, and we gave you examples of how organization succeeds. Let's not forget that irrespective of whether you're B2C or B2B, the buyer population is also represented equally with women leaders and so on and so forth. So if I do not understand as a company, how do we position ourselves in the broader world, which is diverse by definition, it is diverse, right? How do you make sure that you're making an impact? Number one. Number two, diversity of thought, and we talked about being innovative. I mean, if you're not being innovative, it doesn't matter, what you do. You're going to fail, and there are plethora of studies which has proved time and again that diverse. I personally experienced in my own teams, right? When you do not have a diverse team, the level of thinking, if you may, the ability for us to sort of truly be innovative significantly comes down, because the homogeneous group can think very homogeneously in many ways, right? So it is about having those diverse thought, diversity of thinking, diversity of ideas, which is actually going to make a difference. So irrespective of whether you're a B2B organization or a B2C organization, it is about the thinking. It's about how do you really address some of the issues which is faced, in broadly, and the second one would be talent. So I can, again, there are many reasons why I believe that this is a strong business paradigm, business imperative, whether you are in B2B, B2C, or whether you're in government, for example, whether you're in a hospitality industry, all of that is true. I don't know whether Sangeeta or Sailaja, you want to add something?
Yeah,
I think the one comment I would have, right? If you just turn it around, if there are a section of employees in any organization who do not feel like they are giving their 100%, that could be gender, it could be LGBTQ, it could be differently abled, it could be even economically weaker sections. We also hire from there as part of, a talent. Now, if they are not able to bring their 100% to work every day, which means they do not have the freedom to express their ideas, right? Do not feel that they are being judged. If they do not, feel that, oh my God, can I say this? There's no self-doubt. Imagine at what level the organization will perform. I think that is what is driving the D&I agenda. It is about inclusion. It is about giving an equal opportunity that irrespective of your background, race, gender, sexual preference, you have a platform where you are treated the same as the others. I think that to me is the fundamental of D&I. And when we have that kind of a workforce, the organization tends to operate at a superior level. And we also tend to measure this, as Rajesh said, through engagement scores, are people feeling that, yes, we are empowered, are we driving the right inclusion agenda? So I know we talk about diversity. The second part, inclusion is equally important, right? Without inclusion, diversity alone doesn't run. And I think that is why, irrespective of the industry or the business model, this is the first and foremost priority for us to have highly engaged and also a highly productive workforce, because then everybody brings their 100% to work, right? There's no hiding behind something, oh, these are elements of me that I don't want to bring at work because I'll be judged for it, or something like that. We don't want that kind of a environment. We want a psychologically safe environment. Hence, we are talking about this. It's not just the International Women's Day. I know, that month has been good, but I think this is an agenda for 365 days in a year. I don't think we can run away from that.
Absolutely.
Well said. Sangeeta, do you want to add to that?
Sailaja and Rajesh have covered, the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion, irrespective of big, small, B2b, B2C organization. I would just say for the technology industry in India, a combination of, building purposeful, engaged organizations, managing your talent priorities, as well as, the ability of building innovative solutions. I think that's really why this is super critical for organizations. I think we have to get out of stereotypes and saying we are doing it because we want to help women and stuff like that.
Right. Rajesh, coming to you, wanted to understand how Cognizant's vision is shaping in terms of advancing women in different career roles this year. If you can share your vision on that.
So, Shilpa, we spoke about a couple of programs already, and then we will, as I mentioned before, one thing we should be careful about is, are we really, or there is actually a need for us to act with intention, right? And we need to be mindful and thoughtful about the programs that we create and how we approach this whole diversity as a broader set of actions that we can bring to bear, right? So and measure our efforts and continue to speak to the population that we seek to serve. I talked about these affinity groups and how do we really sort of stay engaged with them. That's where we will find the information that we need. So obviously we need to go there. From a specificity of programs that we've been able to do, especially in the tech industry, a few things which comes to my mind. One is, and then we spoke several times. I won't belabor the point again. One is, of course, the returnship program, very successful. The reason why it is more relevant for the tech industry, Shilpa, is the other industries. I think people are a little more comfortable coming back because things have not changed that much. But if you're out of the tech industry for, let's say, 10 years and you're trying to get back, it is a totally different world. So it is important for us to make sure that they're not able to, the chasm is not too big for them to sort of catch up. So it's important for us to make sure that we are able to bridge that gap. So that's the returnship program all about. We talked about this Propel program, which is the leadership development program, which I believe that it takes people and truly builds them, as a leader over a period of time, for a senior management role, etc. And again, we talked about how do we make this project, etc. So that was number 2. Number 3 is that this whole women visits rule tech. I mean, this is something which we work together with NASSCOM WTRT program that we do. Again, very impactful as a program. I think we'll continue to do that quite a bit. Then we have this program called Matri, which is stands for Maternity Transition and Integration. We believe that while most companies would just do the maternity support, etc., but it is all of them, right? During maternity and then post maternity, not just about providing longer holidays and break, but it's also about providing support during the process. So that's something which we do very, very consciously, and then I believe that that's an important step as well. Back to the tech industry, we have a program called Be Gritty. It's called Be Gritty, and this is something which I'm very proud of. What we do is that when we start hiring people from the campuses, we start from there and then say, how do you navigate the leadership journey? So there's giving them this, and it's very focused only on the diversity population in terms of saying, how do you make sure that you're able to have this path which will take you to a leadership role? Because we always believe that there is a bit of a challenge, 2-3 years down the line, and there may be a lot of things will happen and then they'll drop out of the. So that's a big program we're all very proud of. So Be Gritty is something which I'm very, very fond of. I talked to you about the Shakti program that we've been able to put all of them together and then put an umbrella program around it. So make sure that we are able to walk this journey all the way from the people, the time they join, the time we develop them, and throughout the life cycle, whatever they need, in terms of do they need a break, they don't need a break, they need flexi hours. Many times we find, and again, I think Akhil, you asked a question about this pandemic and the impact of it between you and Sailaja. I think it's a great example of, we automatically assume that women want to work from home. That's not true at all. I mean, we go back and do a lot of surveys. Many women, they feel that they want to come back to work because they as examples would prove, that's not. So it is important for us to give the optionality. Flexibility is the key, as opposed to assuming that this is what will work and will not work. So the ingenuity of how do you approach this, the authenticity with which I will address this, that's what is going to make a big difference for advancing women in tech in 2022.
Okay, the next question is for Sailaja. How should companies drive conscious inclusion?
You're on mute, Sailaja.
Yeah.
Sailaja.
Thanks, Rajesh. So I think, we have all spoken a lot about unconscious bias, right, in the system. Now, when we acknowledge that there is unconscious bias, that is when we can take steps to address that. So I think sensitization is most important. Sensitization across the organization, which is first step in terms of first recognizing there is a bias and addressing the bias, right? Which then starts to give more of an equal platform. So creating an inclusive atmosphere starts with sensitization, talking openly about unconscious bias, calling out examples of that, and of course, training our associates and management staff in ensuring that we do not start to demonstrate those kind of behaviors. And I say we, it's not just men, women also demonstrate unconscious bias, right? That's proven in across studies. So sensitization is one important. Two is having these kind of flexible work models, which Rajesh was talking about, that the choice is given to the women, right? There could be a newborn mother who just returned from maternity. She might be okay to take an overseas engagement. It's her choice, right? And she would have had made arrangements on how to take care of the baby. But let's not assume on behalf of her. So that decision making should be given to the lady, opportunities should be presented to the lady, and then the flexibility should also be offered to the lady. I think that is very important in an inclusive atmosphere. Often what happens is managers take decisions on their behalf. Oh, she's got a baby, I don't think she can travel. Oh, this client is very demanding, I don't think we can put her into this, right? Which might be counter to what actually the lady wants to do. She might be quite driven and quite capable of managing this. Third one, of course, is to kind of share with women that you have this network and tools and faculty who are available for you to tap into, right? It is a simple coaching session, mentoring session. So we have that whole mentoring coaching running across the organization. Most of us leaders have signed up for that, men and women, and we are available to kind of say, hey, you want to start, let's do a one-to-one mentoring session. It's no way related to your performance management. It's highly confidential, and it's only focused about helping you through the challenges you face in a corporate. So the very structured mentoring program is very important, right? And fourth one is for us to start measuring the progress. When we say measurement, it's about, okay, have we improved on our percentage of women in leadership roles? How are we kind of measuring the success of these programs? Like how many of the women who have gone through Propel, for example, have successfully moved into leadership roles? How many of the women that we have kind of brought in through the returnship program, how well have they assimilated? And we kind of try to take the feedback from the business as well. What's been their performance? How is it going? So that measurement is very important. And then the tone, right? Our communication, and Sangeeta alluded to it right at the beginning, right? It is important that we continue to communicate that this is very important for us. These are the things we are doing as an organization. This is the behavior we expect as an organization, so that everybody, every associate kind of starts to walk the path. So I think it has to be like a comprehensive program covering all of that, and everyone has to be sensitized for inclusion. I think one risk I see, which all of us, I think the industry also look at, is diversity agenda cannot exclude men, right? Then that to me is a big failure. Then we were no more diverse. Then again, we've become focused on one section of people, right? It has to be an inclusive diversity agenda. And the most important for that is male allyship. Because at the end of the day, men are a majority when it comes to seniority, in terms of business leaders, sponsors, senior management. Now, if men become advocates, then the effect that they can kind of generate in terms of moving this agenda forward is huge, because statistically women are still a minority. We can talk about it, but our sphere of influence is still limited as compared to men whose sphere of influence is much larger because they have more numbers. So to me, it's a comprehensive program involving all these steps. One without another won't be successful.
Thank you, Sailaja. Thank you for
I think you're getting cut, Shilpa.
articulating that so well. This question again is to Sangeeta.
Shilpa, your connection has some issue.
Yeah. So, Sangeeta, I just wanted to ask you, is there a diversity and inclusion initiative that has been a true differentiator in that?
Okay, I'll just repeat it since there was a connection issue.
Okay.
Is there a
Sangeeta?
You have a lag in the, it's getting a little lagged. I think I got the question, Akhilesh. So she's asking, is there a diversity and inclusion initiative that has been a true differentiator for the industry, right? So,
exactly.
Right. I think, Shilpa, yes, but I wouldn't say that's one initiative. We've seen, in the early days of when the diversity initiative started in India, it was about putting the policies and programs in place, getting people to understand why diversity matters. I think the second phase was really about the mentorship, the sponsorship programs, the role models, all of that coming together and helping women get through that journey. I think the last 2 years, it's all been about this whole theme about flexibility, providing more online learning programs, because in the past, even when you did learning programs, women would have that challenge saying, I have to do a 9 to 6 job and then stay back for a learning program, right? I think so today's virtual environment has actually provided us a lot more flexibility. I think the returnship program is a phenomenal one because there are so many talented women out there. And our industry needs talent, right? So what a better combination than we can do that. But like Sailaja rightly articulated, it requires interventions. You can't just hire them and say, you'll be productive from day one, right? So, and I think last is really about making this, measurement is very, very important. So what Rajesh and Sailaja both talked about, if you don't measure, you'll feel you're doing a good job and it's always a feel-good factor. But having this as a key priority on CXO leadership is what I think is now making the difference as we see about. So it's been a journey. I think the great part about this industry is that everybody comes together and shares what's working for them and what's not. So we all learn from each other and we are able to build out programs that we can then take forward.
Okay, the next question is for Rajesh and Sailaja. I think this will be our last question. We're almost out of time. So what is the way forward now to continue advancing women in tech?
Well, I will, give my views, and we spoke about it a little while ago in terms of the broad set of actions that we need to get done. But let me just sort of wrap that up, and then Sailaja, you can add anything specific around that if need to. But I believe that first of all, this recognition that diversity is a business imperative. And having a diverse workforce is not a nice thing to have, or you're doing the good things to a certain section of the population, etc., but essential for success for corporations and organizations. Irrespective of which business you are in, it's an essential component of what you need to do. So that's number one, I think the recognition of that. Number two, from an organization point of view, we all have to recognize that you got to have systemic interventions that we talked about. It has to be a system. It cannot be that, okay, I do a diversity or I celebrate Women's Day and so I'm diverse. So it has to be a very thoughtful way of covering end to end, as I said, all the way from how do you attract the diversity that you want, and then go through the nurture it, include it, provide the, as I said, DEI, the diversity, the equity programs that you put in place, the inclusion elements that you put in place. So look at this as a very sustained, long-term programs, systems in place, which will actually cover the broader agenda. And then, it is about a long-term journey. It is not a one-off intervention. So number two. Number three, again, Sangeeta just now mentioned about measurements. It is important for us to measure, and at the highest level of the organization, you have to monitor those measurements and ensure that you're able to track it, ensure that if there's something is not going well, understand what it is. For example, do we have the right, once we found that our hiring is not the right one. We went and found that the panels are all not diverse. So make the panel very diverse so that, if you're addressing, let's say, for example, if you want to hire more women, you want to make sure that there are more women in the panel that you're going to be putting together for the interview. So many such measurements will give you insight into what is that you can do differently as a company so that you are able to capture the right set of audience. Last but not the least, again, I can go on for many, but I will stop at the last one is authenticity. You cannot fake this. You cannot do this for numbers or cannot do this for awards and so on and so forth, right? It has to be done because you believe this is the right thing for the company. You believe that there's a business paradigm. You believe that there is essential for the company's success. And when you look at the actions that you're going to be putting in, you got to be authentic in terms of how you come across it, authentic in terms of how do you really deal with this. So that, in my mind, will make the biggest difference. So let me stop there and see if Sailaja, you want to add anything to that.
Sure. Thanks, Rajesh. I think you covered quite a lot. I think the 2 points I do want to make, right? I don't think women are looking for special treatment. I want to make that very clear. They're just looking for equal opportunity, right? That's fundamental. So this is, I hear about, oh, it's a quota. And, I don't think any one of us here are in this position because we are women. I think being women has got nothing to do with the professional stage of our career. I think people need to appreciate that, and that's where the sensitization is important. Also, DNI agenda is not about excluding men. It is about creating diverse teams, as Rajesh said, which are most beneficial for the business. And I don't think it's any single person's, responsibility. It's not a COO responsibility. It's just a CXO. It is our collective responsibility to create a diverse framework. So I would say, I think a little bit of sensitization is required. Let's start to, I think, develop as leaders and managers that we are dealing with a certain section of workforce on whom the pressures are slightly different. And typically you need to support only during potentially 3 times, right? I mean, I know I'm oversimplifying it. The women associate would require help around marriage, maybe some relocation help, etc. Would require some support, should they choose to do childbearing. Again, programs like My 3 that Rajesh spoke about are very useful, but again, that's temporary, right? And then they come back and, get back into the workforce. Third, the woman looks for flexibility if there are any elder care responsibilities that come in, either from in-laws or parents or somebody close, a sibling or something. But those are the flexibility options we also provide to the male associates, right? So when we start to look at it that way, beyond those 3, if we are able to support them during those 3 situations, and maybe not all women require all 3 also, right? Maybe one of them is when they need more help. You are looking at having this workforce work with us for 25, 30 years. So it helps address the talent gap. It helps us have a diversity of thought and views and opinions, which are very important in a business. It also kind of starts to generate these very authentic and high performing teams because of the balance that is there in the team, right? It's about creating balance. So if managers can be aware that, look, these are the 3 areas typically where women would require some kind of a optionality or flexibility. And then that is also temporary. It's not permanent. Remember, it's just a phase. And once the phase happens, then women come back. I also give this advice sometimes to women, right? I think all of our careers, there are times when we want to sprint in our careers because we are able to do that because, a lot of other things are in place. There are times when we want to just walk in our career because there is something else which is taking a precedence. So I think one's ability to manage the pace and an organization that gives the flexibility for the women to act at the pace that best suits their current circumstances is what is very important. So organization, leadership, everybody has to be focused that, it's not like, I'm going to run throughout at 100 kmph. No, nobody's career works like that. I think all of us have worked long enough to know that. But it's kind of giving that flexibility, which would actually help them do the long marathon. I think that is very important. And that's probably my request to all the managers who are attending to this, that, just see from a different perspective and in your own way, facilitate this. You facilitate somebody, you support them for 3 months, you're giving them a career of 10 to 15 years. That's the long-term impact of a small action that we can take when a woman needs help.
And I'm just mindful of time, but we have an overwhelming response from our audience. There are 2 more questions to go, but I would seek your permission before I post it. Is it okay, Rajesh, Sangeeta, and Sailaja?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for accommodating. This one is from Gauri. How would you advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion with colleagues who don't understand its importance?
I would say it will start with sensitization, Shilpa, because, I think the first time we did a session on unconscious bias, right? Even at NASSCOM, most people went into the room saying, I am very fair, I don't have any biases, right? But I think just going through that exercise made you feel and realize that each one of us has our biases, whether we recognize them or not. So I think the importance of sensitization is very, very critical. Two is, I think, the ability to, as an organization, to take action, right? If you're seeing obvious discrimination taking place, I think providing that environment where employees will feel safe to come and report an environment where there is any discrimination taking place. I think that is, to me, I think some very initial steps that can be taken to address concerns like these.
Sure. And this last question is from Swarupa. What measures are companies taking to manage diversity and inclusion initiatives in a way acceptable to a larger employee base? For example, how should companies manage resources when a woman employee is on maternity leave? Sailaja, do you want to take a shot?
Sure. So I think we probably have to kind of together as a society, as an organization, as an industry, be aware that maternity is not a disease, right? It is not a disease, right? It is a period of time when, one needs some support. And I also find that no single maternity case is the same, right? There are women who have worked till their last day, who then within 24 hours go deliver the baby and start their maternity, right? They've been most optimal. And there are women who face challenges during maternity where they're advised rest and all that. Again, one size fits all doesn't work. And I continue to say this. Let's remember that long marathon that we were talking about. If you look at a 15, 20, 25, 30-year career of a woman, maternity is a very small part of that. So in my view, when somebody goes on maternity, comes back, it's also, again, bringing them back into the workforce. A little bit of acclimatization. We may not do something as big as a returnship, but a little bit of acclimatization is required because a mother has separation challenges. I mean, now it's in fact better with work from home, that is not there. But when they come back to work, there's a little bit of guilt. There is a separation anxiety from a newborn baby. And the woman is also trying to establish the ecosystem that will help take care of the baby as she resumes work, right? It requires minor adjustment. I think that support is needed, but I don't think it undermines one's ability or capability. I actually think that newborn mothers are most capable. I don't think anybody in the world can juggle more than what they can do. Right? And they're great on scheduling, they're great on inventory management, they're great on planning and organizing, and they're extremely driven by a time schedule, right? All these are skills that are acquired by a mother of a newborn. Why would you not want that in your workplace? So actually the woman is returning back with newer skills, right? Of being able to take responsibility for somebody else. And with all these skills, right? Problem solving, troubleshooting, inventory management, all the things that are very relevant in a corporate environment. So if we can start viewing it that way, then we are looking at somebody who's come back with newer skills, slightly different, probably work-life balance kind of equation, because their schedule is partly driven by what the newborn wants. But I don't think there is any deterioration in terms of capability. If anything, there's an enhancement. And there's also a sense of purpose, right? All of us know that, parenthood actually gives you a sense of purpose to kind of do more and advance your career and kind of propels our ambitions. You've got this person who is now ambitious, very organized. So I don't think we should see that as any kind of a, shortcoming. Instead, we should see this person as an enhanced individual who's now back with new skill set. Now, I think it's a mindset change. The individual is the same. The individual is capable. It's how we view people who are coming back from maternity. I think that's where collectively as a society, as an industry, we need to kind of start treating them as more empowered and more capable.
Thank you, Sailaja. With this, we call it a wrap on this edition of the Times Techies webinar in association with Cognizant. Thank you, Cognizant, for partnering with us. Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you, Sailaja. Thank you, Sangeeta. It was lovely to have you on our platform and such insightful and engaging discussion. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good luck with the 100th webinar. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.